Let me start. Let me just remind you, you're listening to Keeping Score on WBAI 99.5 FM and streaming live on WBAI.org. Today's show, we're going to talk about what players should do well before they go on their farewell season tour into retirement, and what can retired athletes do to remain financially healthy. To talk more about this topic, we welcome our guest, Injil Muhammad, a CPA specializing in tax-smart investing and IRS problem resolution. We all could use help with that. Injil, welcome back to Keeping Score.
Listen, thank you for inviting me. How you guys been?
Good. How are you?
Good. Welcome.
Very well.
So how you been? You were on the show a few months ago. We talked about a lot of these same issues with athletes and how they, protect their money. Just give me, your general thoughts on that. We all hear the stories of athletes being taken advantage of. Investing in the right things or the wrong things. Give me your general take on, athletes making all that kind of money, how they can protect themselves.
Well, first I want to say that the athletes are similar to us in that when money stops, productivity stops, and you have to plan long term. But here's the thing that I think. Most people really don't understand the purpose of money. And the purpose of money really is to make more money, not just for today, but equally important for tomorrow. And in my opinion, there's two types of money. There's money that you earn, and there's money that your money earns. And it's funny, in the tax law, money that we earn, when I say earn, we're talking about as a W-2 employee, as a business owner, what have you. That's called ordinary income. That money is taxed at the highest rate. And most of the athletes are going to be taxed at the highest rate at the federal level, which is now 37%. But when your money makes money, okay, when you have capital gains and dividends and your money's making money, the highest rate that can be taxed at is 20%. There are some surcharges, but just to keep things simple. So we're talking about when you make money, it's 37%. When your money makes money, it's 20%. So what the tax law is trying to teach us is that you have to go from being an earner to an investor. So an athlete who's young, okay, and has a certain window to make a lot of money, they may not understand all of that. Even if you took a person who had an engineering degree, and if you told them you're only going to work for 10 years, that person would have the same problems as an athlete, an accountant, whoever it is. So when your earning window is short, there's certain things that you must do. So what they have to do is they have to say this: I know I have to live, I have to pay bills, I have to enjoy life, I have to help family and friends and so forth. But I have to make sure that a portion of my money is going to be set aside so that when this stops, when that cheering stops, when when I'm no longer in the starting lineup or any lineup,
right,
that money has to carry me. So they have a special responsibility to make sure that they're surrounded by people who understand that, who not so much. A lot of times athletes are surrounded by a lot of yes men. They say yes but mean no. So we have to make sure that the money is understood, that it needs to be reinvested to cover the periods in which you're not working. So that's the simple answer. That's the general answer.
Right. Well, for a second, let's forget all this athlete stuff. I want to know how to make my money make money. I mean, I'm not making millions of dollars. So what do you say to the person making a little less who wants to have their money make money?
Well, the first thing we have to look at is how much of your income that you make can you actually invest? That's step number one. So you have to do sort of like a budget to say, okay, I make $100,000, or I make $200,000, whatever you make. How much of that money can be reinvested? And then when you think about reinvesting, you have to say, okay, well, where am I going to put it, and how long am I going to put it there? So you have to have what is called an allocation, where you're investing in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, what have you. You want to make sure you're diversified, and you want to make sure you have a long-term horizon. For example, when we start working with clients, one of the first questions we ask them before we do anything is, how long do you plan on remaining in this investment? Because yesterday was an ugly day in the market. So if you had someone who said, okay, I have $1 million, okay, but I want to invest this money for a year, we shouldn't go in the market if it's only a year. But if someone says, I have $1 million, but I want to invest it for 10 years, then you can look at going into the market. But to answer your question, it's a matter of allocating what percentage of your household income that you're going to reinvest, because you must reinvest. Because if you don't, you're going to run into major problems. For example, years ago, about 20 or so years ago, the Roth IRA came out, and when I first read about the Roth IRA, I had to reread it because I couldn't believe what I was reading. I read that you can put money in a retirement account, and not only does it grow tax-free, but you get tax-free distributions. Okay, so I thought I misread it. So this was back in 1997. So what the government was telling us, they're telling us that, listen, you have to be responsible for your retirement, the average Joe, whoever you are, because Social Security is probably not going to get the job done. Pensions are a thing of the past. I mean, how many people actually have pensions now? Okay, so the reality is that when you invest, you have to make sure that you're earning money properly, you're properly diversified, but then make sure that the tax guy is not collecting on your investments. So the Roth IRA is a tool for the middle class, in my opinion, one of the best tools, because you can put money into this investment and the growth is not taxable. So it's a long answer. Long answer, but budget, understand your time horizon, understand your risk tolerance. In other words, how comfortable are you with days like yesterday to continue in the market? Do you cut and run? Because remember, now the market that's the big boys. It's not the Boy Scouts. Right. So when you go in, you have to have that big, you got to be ready to handle it. So if you can handle that, then, like for example, today is a totally different day, right?
Yes.
Totally different.
Yes.
So the point is that budget, allocate, and think long term.
Mr. Muhammad, about
Yes,
a
sir.
month ago, had we been doing this interview, I would have been all over, saving for the future.
Yes.
Nowadays, a lot of our listeners, I have a lot of family members as well, who are trying to create a disaster preparedness type of strategy, such as, say, like they were quarantined for 2 weeks and couldn't work.
Yes.
Say that their jobs were laid off, like you see what's happening around the country.
Yes.
I grew up a check-to-check type of guy, and I've
Gotcha.
always wanted to know how to grow out of that hole. But in these times in particularly, do you have any advice for our listeners?
Well, the thing is this: it's about discipline. You make a good point. When you start an investment, most advisors like myself will tell you that you need to have at least 3 months of savings that's outside the market of your expenses. So if your expenses are $5,000 a month, you need to have at least $15,000 put away that's not subject to the market fluctuations that we're experiencing right now, and to also deal with the unexpected this virus that's floating around. So it's hard to get there. Mm-hmm. It's in theory, right? So a person may say, well, I'll never get to $15,000. We have to start somewhere. So I say, this is what I say to most people: how much money can you save every week? Every week. Take the money every week and take it from yourself by putting it into either a bank account that's automatically taking money from your checking account into some kind of savings account. And as you build that up, then start investing. So I wouldn't look at it on a monthly basis. I would look at it on a weekly basis. Can you save $20 a week? You find that eventually you're going to get up to $100. We can save money. Let me put it to you this way. Let's say that the Social Security tax structure changed, where they just increased the rate. Would we survive? If you have Social Security coming out your check, and that increases by $50 a pay period, are you going to quit your job? No. They're going to take $50 from you. So why don't you take $50 for yourself and put it where it belongs so you can build this thing? So we must do it. It's very difficult. There's a lot of things coming at us. You may have to cut some expenses. I don't want to start talking about cable companies and all these, and phone bills. But look how much money we spend on these items that are really not necessary. They're important, but they're not necessary.
No, you're absolutely right. Because I'm a guy who still has cable, still has some of the other luxuries.
Yes.
And I see that tax season was usually a ritual where once you get the tax return, I normally take my trips to Best Buy, right, or local electronic stores and rack up.
Right.
This year, You know, I'm already savvy enough just reading the tea leaves of what's going on in this country and in this world that that's not possible. So what you're saying, I definitely agree with. Can I just add a number real quick before you go?
Absolutely.
Well, you're not going yet, but call us, listeners, 212-209-2877. That's 212-209-2877.
No question. Before we go to callers, just quickly, what are what's the most common problem or question people come to you with in terms of their finances?
That's a good question, and it varies. A lot of people come to us that may have a 401k, and they don't understand how it should be invested, or when they leave the job, what options do they have? Some people come to us, they have major tax problems. They may owe the IRS money because of not taking out the proper withholding years ago or last year, and all of a sudden the IRS is coming after them. So it's not one thing, but it centers around understanding the end game and having the discipline to get there. So whatever the issue is, we listen, we figure out, we not only listen, but try to understand who I'm talking to, because everyone is different. Mm-hmm. I cannot tell someone that this is going to work for you because it worked for the last client I just spoke with. So my job is to understand where we're trying to go based on speaking to a client and then understanding them, okay? Because I used to tell my kids, I used to always tell them, I said, you know what, remember you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. There's a reason for that, because you should spend double time listening. And I told them, I said, I have so much success with listening to people, okay? Because when you listen to them, you really understand what needs to be done. I may think I know what you need, but I really don't until we have a real conversation, because you may not hear it the way I'm saying it. So the point is discipline and getting to a point, getting us to agree that this is what the goal is. And once they see the benefits of a goal, but it's varied questions. It's not one particular question, but a lot of people are concerned about, remember when the market crashed just before Barack Obama came into office around 2007, 2008, a lot of people who were invested in 401ks got scared. And what they did, they came out of the mutual funds or the stock mutual funds and went into a safe investment. But they did it at the wrong time. So they did it when the market went down. The intelligent way that we want to buy low and sell high. Most people do the opposite because of the emotion.
Right.
So what we try to do is remove the emotion and deal with the reality of what the goals really are. And most people already know the answers. It's just a matter we have to get a plan to get there. Speaking
of already knowing the answer, you met one of the issues you said people come to you with is they've fallen behind on their taxes or haven't filed for a few years, and then the IRS is coming after them or whatever. What kind of advice do you give there? I would assume you just tell them to start filing.
Well, the first thing you want to, when you have an IRS issue, the first thing you need to understand is that you want to solve the current problem. Mm-hmm. So if a person comes to me, let's say they owe $50,000, okay, and every year they owe $4,000 or $5,000. So the first thing you want to do is, okay, how do we stop you owing in the current year? We figure that out. It's either you have to withhold more, or you have to make estimated payments, or you have deductions that you don't understand you have.
Right.
Okay, so we have to fix like you fix a flat. You have to fix the problem. Then what we do, we say, okay, this $50,000 problem you have, let's talk to the IRS about an arrangement. An arrangement could be a payment plan, or an arrangement could be not to have a payment plan because you can't afford it, or an arrangement could be to reduce the amount you owe. Let me give you a quick example. If you make $6,000 a month and you have expenses, living expenses, what the IRS calls necessary living expenses, of $5,900 a month,